is A to Z with Mark Zinno, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, and it starts now.
Good afternoon. Welcome to A to Z here on Locked On Sports Atlanta, where today I tell you it was really hard to get this one right. Welcome in. We are live here on this Monday, back in the saddle. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On ATL. Of course, I'm at Mark Zinno, MarkZinno. Coming up, the Atlanta Falcons. Can they actually do something that makes their fans happy? We'll get to that. Plus, the Braves a day off, but we'll look forward to the big series this week and where the odds have swung in one Braves' favor. That's all coming up here on this show. First segment of the show brought to you by our friends at BetOnline.net. And we have to start, obviously, with Deshaun Watson and the NFL, or shouldn't even be the NFL, their independent arbiter, Judge Susan Robinson, handed down her punishment today of Deshaun Watson and gave him 6 games for his, let's say, alleged sexual misconduct with over 24 different women. And there was really a hard way to get this 100% right, because they were trying to fit in such a narrow window that it was going to be nearly impossible. I mean, look, I'll say this much. Again, I believe Deshaun Watson is guilty of doing things he should not have done. Whether those things were 100% criminal is maybe a different conversation. And some of that may be in the person who felt like they were violated, that they may feel it was criminal. But meeting the measure of the law and the word of the law, I think, is something that we all have to hold to as a standard. So I believe Deshaun Watson, as I said, at best case, is the creepiest dude in America, who I want nowhere near anybody, any female that I know, period. Worst case scenario, he's a sexual predator, needs to be locked up for a really long time. So anywhere in between that is still probably not good enough for me. That said, to punish him accurately and effectively was going to be very, very difficult for the NFL. Because if you gave him a year, which is what I would have done if I was Roger Goodell, if I was Commissioner Zinno, I would have given him a year. Everybody would have responded with, well, he wasn't charged with a crime. There are other people who weren't charged with a crime, like Ben Roethlisberger, like Ezekiel Elliott, for, let's just call it, sexual misconduct. And they got 6 games. So I guess there is some consistency there, if you'd like to provide that as consistency. But to give a guy a year for other guys who didn't get charged with a crime and only got 6 games seems excessive to some people, right? There's a whole bunch of people out there saying, well, if he's not charged with a crime, he didn't do anything wrong. You can have that opinion. That's your opinion. I'm not going to debate you on that. Right from wrong here is really easy to tell. If you went to a massage with the intent of having some sort of other relations with the massage therapist, then you weren't going there for a massage and you knew that ahead of time. Your intent was flawed. And that's a big problem for me with Deshaun, which is why I believe he was guilty. And if you didn't go there, if you only went there with the intent for getting a massage and other things happened, well, then we have to start asking a whole bunch of different questions. So there's just way too much to dissect for me to believe that he's 100% exonerated and innocent in this fact. I just don't believe it. So there's that. So, it was tough for him to get it right. What I find laughable, is how people think that the NFL is actually concerned with optics. And I don't know that they are concerned with optics. They're not concerned with optics when it comes to things that happen to players off of the football field. They're not concerned with optics of any of that. It does not matter. Just go through the litany of things we've seen in the last decade and a half plus. I mean, we've seen DUI manslaughter guys get back on the field. We've seen folks who beat children back on the field. Obviously, the violence against women is long and distinguished is not the right word, but you get what I'm saying. The list is lengthy. We've got guys who brought guns in airports. We have had people who have fired guns and shot people and fired guns in public places and this, that, and the other. And they all got back on the field. The NFL does not give a rip optically about what their players do off the field and how the punishment resonates with their fans. They do not care. They do not care. The only time they have slightly cared about optics was with the Colin Kaepernick situation. So, and that only affected their bottom line. That's why they cared optically. Because guess what? Whether Deshaun Watson was suspended for a year, he was suspended for 12 games, suspended for 6 games, or not suspended at all. Guess what? When games start, everybody's still watching. For some reason, people stop watching. You can do a variety of different reasons, but whether it coincided with Colin Kaepernick or was before Colin Kaepernick or because of Colin Kaepernick, people stopped watching, and that concerned the NFL. What I don't think is something that is comparable here is what we are talking about with one Falcons player. Get to that in a minute. First, a word from our friends at betonline.net. You know, BetOnline, fastest and easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find your favorite sports and events on the number one online source for odds, lines, and games. You guys know I'm a huge sports gambler, so I use betonline.net on a routine basis. They have reviews and news of every league: Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, esports, even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, which is a lot of fun if you can do it well, scores, and podcasts. They've got you all covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. I don't want to hear anybody tell me about the Calvin Ridley suspension. Again, the NFL does not care optically about what goes on off the field with players. However, they care a ton about what goes on the field, because that product is what makes them billions. That product is what helps us forget about all the dumb stuff players do off the field. Any sort of thing that looks into cheating the game, integrity of the game, whatever it is, will always be of concern to the NFL. Why do you think they spent months and hundreds of millions of dollars investigating deflated footballs? Because the prospect was there that somebody could have cheated. And the NFL cannot have the product on the field be touched in any size, way, shape, or form. Calvin Ridley 100% got every bit of what he deserved from punishment from the NFL. And don't get it twisted. One has nothing to do with the other. These are completely different crimes, and they have completely different sets of punishment. And if you think otherwise, you're wrong. I can say that wholeheartedly. You're flat out wrong. Now, the NFL can still appeal this and try to get more of a suspension. Last night, the NFLPA came out and said they won't appeal the suspension, and they asked the NFL not to do the same, to leave it where it is. I don't know if the NFL will or won't. Again, they don't care about optics. So whether it's 6 games or 8 games, what does it really matter? I mean, what's twisted about this whole thing is that if the NFL does appeal it, it goes to Roger Goodell or his appointed designee. Okay? So essentially, Roger Goodell is going to decide if the punishment should be higher. I'm not sure what the NFL gains by this. They wanted a year. They didn't get a year. At least that's what the reports were saying. And you find out that if the NFL is going to go back and appeal this thing, are they going to push it from 6 games to 17? That seems like a big jump. That does not seem like it's a number that makes sense. And the NFLPA supposedly had put this whole thing together because that whole statement last night, because they felt like because it went through 2 grand juries and he wasn't charged and another judge looked at it and wasn't charged, guess what? There's not really a strong case to say that he did anything wrong. So they were pretty confident in their case. And the NFL could go back and just appeal it and give him a heavier fine because of the way the Browns structured his contract. Because in reality, he's only losing like $230,000, which in NFL terms is like $5 to you and me. That's like nothing. So they could go back and do that. Although I did find the most comical part of the Deshaun Watson punishment was that Judge Robinson wrote in her ruling that Deshaun Watson must get all of his massages and his massage therapy from club therapists. Boy, that's a rip. I mean, that is, you know, that just it tickles me to smile. That is akin to this punishment for Ezekiel Elliott, who pulled down a woman's shirt in public and wasn't charged with a crime. That would be akin to the punishment for Ezekiel Elliott being a 6-game suspension, and Ezekiel Elliott can only be around women who are wearing full T-shirts. That would be akin to Ben Roethlisberger, who was not charged, but had alleged sexual misconduct in a bathroom with a young female right down here in Georgia, that along with a 6-game punishment, Ben Roethlisberger must only use the bathroom alone. What the hell are we doing here? It's a laughable joke. It is honestly a laughable joke. To put that in the punishment is so laughable. It is ridiculous. Like, you're just joking at that. You're making it. That's actually actively making fun of this whole process. It really is. It really, really is. Because here's the rub of this whole thing. Pun intended, I guess, when you talk about massages. If Deshaun Watson does this again, do you think it's even going to matter whether he's charged with a crime? If he's that stupid, if he's that moronic to go have an inappropriate encounter with any masseuse, do you think for 1 second the NFL is even going to send this to an independent arbiter? Nope, gone, suspended, out, done. But then again, the NFL doesn't care about optics. So make of that what you will. All right, coming up next, Falcons fans are really hard to please. Maybe they've got a good reason for it, but maybe they should check their own compass. That's next right here on A to Z on Locked On Sports Atlanta, free on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Search Locked On Sports Atlanta.